Hey classes, I wanted to share a video with you on peer review. This is an example of a peer review session that I had in graduate school with two of my classmates. This paper is by Brianna Gibson, and this was in Paulette Stevenson's English 553 technical writing class. So we had peer groupings just like we're going to have in our class, our English 101 class, that involved 3 people. In this one, it was Brianna Gibson, myself, and Kara Cox. Later on, Brianna and Kara peer review my Planet Fitness content analysis plan essay, which I'll share with you guys. And we do the same for Kara. In this one, this is not a perfect example, but I thought there were a lot of good elements of peer review here that I wanted to share with you. Now, I'm a really big believer in praise, question, polish, PQP, which is the type of peer review that I'm going to be introducing you guys to on Monday. And if you're in the 3B class on Tuesday, I have a handout for this that's already posted on Canvas and that I'll probably print and hand out in class. And I think it's really a constructive way of going about it. And I think it's constructive to utilize PQP not only for the writer, for the review of the person's paper that's the author, but I think this type of review or any type of peer review is also very valuable for you, the person that's making the comments, because we're not always going to have peer review to fall back on. And so one of the things I want to foster in you guys is the ability to self-review. Yomasami talks about that a little bit in the ASU Crash Course series. Self-review. It's going to be, you're always going to be there for yourself, right? So if you can become strong reviewers through the process of peer review and making comments on other people's papers and seeing craft and structure and organization and tone and word choice and all the things that make a person's paper effective, if you can do that from the PQP vantage point of the outside looking in, then that'll make you all the better for when you're doing it on your own paper. Okay, so the ultimate goal actually is, sure, we want you to benefit from your peers that are commenting on your paper for that particular essay, but the real goal of PQP or any peer review process is to make you more constructive in realizing your own writing, ways that you can improve your own writing through self-review and analysis. Okay, so in this one, you guys know I'm all about generating positive momentum as a writer through titles, right? Get your paper off to a great start. So it's no surprise, and when it comes to peer review, that my philosophy is that you also get off to a positive start with positive momentum by making a positive comment. You start with praise. So it's no accident that we start that on the PQP model, praise is the first one. So you should start with praise to get the review process off with a little bit of positive momentum for the person that's going to be reading the comments. It's always nice to get that first nice comment in. In this case, it was well-deserved because I did love Brianna's title here. Just do it, but just do it better. Okay, we're talking about Nike, where their slogan is just do it. And Brianna added, just do it better. Now keep in mind, this is a Nike brand analysis and recommendation plan. So when Brianna's talking about doing it better, she's literally suggesting to Nike, one of the most successful companies on the planet, ways in which their product, or at least, their message, as far as how they convey their product and sell it and communicate it, can be improved. So they can do it better. So my praise continues on here where I said, hey, you really did it. Nice pun. And again, it goes to that point. Even an empire, a business empire like Nike, can be shown that they can still have, there's still things that they can do in their business model that can be an improvement. So they can do it better. I think that's really catchy. And I think that's something, if you were a Nike executive and someone offered you this proposal or this research plan, you would be open and looking at it just based on that title alone. Here, I go from polish to question. So notice here that I have the question mark. What? My question to her is, she makes an interesting assertion here. In many respects, well-established brands must work even harder to maintain their success beyond selling quality products or offering excellent services. Such is the case with Nike. So my question for Brianna was, what are you basing this on? Nike sells quality products and provides excellent service, so why is it harder for them to maintain success specifically? Why specifically Nike? Why is she saying well-established brands must work even harder to maintain success? So I was just curious as to what her source was for that, or if she just kind of came up with it herself, or just kind of it just fit her point that she was making, her thesis. Not sure, but I think it's fair to question that, and that's the kind of thing you're going to be doing in your peer review. So I go from praise up here to question, big question mark. What are you saying there? You're literally trying to help somebody out. So if Brianna put that in there and didn't even realize that it sounded that way, then I've just brought to her attention that, hey, by the way, that doesn't really jive. That doesn't really work. You don't really have anything to back that up. What are you basing this on? Okay. So here I go from praise to question, back to praise, where I say, hey, Nike must continue to innovate new ways to reach a larger audience and maintain consumer confidence. Yeah, basically this is a great foundational statement that shows the purpose and the need for this research. So why would Nike care about their content as it relates to audience and customer appeal? After all, it's just all about the product, right? The shoes and how much they cost. Wrong. Nike, even a Fortune 500 company, even one of the top companies on the planet, Nike must constantly adjust, adapt, and model their content to reach as broad an audience base as possible and as effectively as possible. So here, this might be a point where typically you would question the person's paper you're reviewing. In this case, the purpose of what they're doing was made clear, so this becomes a point of praise. All right, so I basically said, hey, great foundational statement showing the purpose and need for this research. You nailed it. So that's praise. Scroll down a bit more and you have more praise. I say here, Nike's already ahead of many of its competitors when it comes to expansive content and brand awareness. Yeah, so I give Brianna the ultimate praise here. I say, hey, Brianna, you have inspired me to actually look at this. So not only is this something that I'm impressed with within the scope of your paper, but you've also inspired me to take a critical look at this notion of cross-promotion from my own paper on Planet Fitness. So that's pretty big time praise there. Here, I praise her for a well-crafted and effective sentence. Let's take a look at this. In areas where they continue to innovate and expand on their mission to inspire and celebrate athletes, like their podcast and emerging YouTube series, the company needs to utilize its strong audience base through Instagram to leverage these other content types. So here I give her praise when I say, wow, Brianna, this is a very well-crafted and effective sentence. I talk about how she connects this notion of the emerging YouTube series and the podcast to the idea of cross-promotion on their Instagram feed. But notice I have a question here. One question. So I combine praise with a question. And what's the question? The question is, to what extent would the cross-promotion itself possibly interfere with or clutter the Instagram feed? In other words, Nike's got a rockin' Instagram feed that's serving its purpose of getting their message out, getting their products out, keeping things moving, keeping the ball rolling. So what would be the purpose of Nike utilizing precious Instagram space and bandwidth? Is that a term that we still use? Anyway, you get it. Digital space. What's the purpose of doing that just for the purpose of cross-branding their YouTube channel and their podcast? Remember, we're talking about Brianna's talking about their YouTube channel, and she's talking about their podcast. So what would be the point of Nike using their already, why not just have their Instagram feed just serve its purpose and just be solely focused on doing its thing? Why do we have to clutter up the Instagram feed with cross promotion of Nike's own YouTube channel and podcast, which might not be something that people are even interested in. And by the way, if they are, they can probably find it on their own. And along those lines, also, I asked the question here about what for her to maybe consider the correlation. Do you think the Instagram person or the person that would be interested in that feed is going to be the same person that would be interested in the podcast or the YouTube feed? Maybe the YouTube feed, but I would submit that would not be the same person that would be interested in the podcast. So you're wasting your time, and you're potentially even turning off and being off-putting to your Instagram customers and that little niche of your market and your little consumer connection and communication by even talking about the podcast. You're just annoying your Instagram users that are going to be typically younger people, whereas the podcast people are older people. So all you're doing is just annoying these people. Now, do I know that to be the fact, that answer? Of course not. But is that something that Brianna might want to look at and recommend to Nike and do as part of her research proposal? Absolutely. So what loss of ethos might result in the Instagram follower getting a daily dose of the Nike platform reference rather than the actual content? That's another good question. If I'm there for Nike content, and I mean just the content, the product, or just fun videos and things related to their product, then do I want to be basically accosted with this podcast feed constantly? Probably not. So this is just a way that you can, by the way, all of these examples, the well-crafted sentence example is me referencing her craft and effective use of language. But this is all just content. This is as it relates to content. And I end with a couple of examples of praise. Remember, we want to start with praise, and then we want to end with praise. And that's what I do here, more or less. Nice sentence. Oh, no, actually, it's polished. Ooh, nice sentence. Consumers have known Nike's purpose since their inception. Ooh, this is a nice sentence, but honestly, I would not make that assumption here, at least not in those precise words. No in inception, I would consider changing to more general terms. But if too general, then maybe consider deleting or rewording altogether. Yep, so that's just an example of polish. And I'll do a complete peer review later. Got to run. Got to love me with my puns, right? Just never ending. Actually, Brianna, I don't think I ever got back to you. So if you're still out there, I'm sure wherever you are, you're successful and you're happy and you're doing fine without me never having got back with you. But I'll just take this opportunity to publicly apologize for you for running away in my Nike shoes and never coming back to you to give you any more, hopefully, valuable peer feedback. I'm sure you did just fine without it. So anyway, guys, by the way, that's ending with not really polished, but just a funny little joke there that maybe might interest her. Kara Cox was interested in the purpose here, maybe the mission statement. So a little bit of expansion. That's one of the things we talk about in PQP is expansion. And she ends with praise. Let's see what else Kara did. Kara's comments were pretty basic. All right, that's all I got. That's PQP in action, peer question praise in a real life graduate level peer review session. Have a great night.